Introduction. Other people get systems that turn them into CEOs and help them conquer the world. My system is a little weirder. It makes other people's lies manifest as physical objects right in front of me. During a job interview, the HR manager said the salary was generous, and a single quarter popped into existence on the table. When a girl with way too many filters on her photo swore she didn't edit her pictures, a rainbow-colored lens flare appeared over her head. Then one day, my ice queen of boss said to me, "I hate you." I looked down at the rose that had just appeared in my hand and had to do some serious thinking. My power awakened on a perfectly ordinary afternoon. My mom was pointing at a hair growth infomercial on TV, swearing up and down, "This stuff definitely works." The moment she said it, my dad's impeccably bald head sprouted a lush, green lawn that swayed gently in the breeze. I don't mean that as a metaphor. I mean a literal, honest-to-God patch of grass, smelling of fresh soil, with 2 ants on it playing tug-of-war. From that day on, I, Leo Carter, a recent grad with no job, was forced to start my new life with the power to materialize lies. It sounds cool, but in practice, it's like being a walking chaos generator. A friend of mine bragged he had an 8-pack, and the next second, there was a loud clatter as 8 actual red bricks fell out from under his t-shirt. I had to help him explain that it was performance art, while discreetly stuffing the bricks back in his arms before he got hauled down to the station. For the sake of my own survival, and for world peace, I had only one criterion for my job search: a utopian workplace filled with sincerity and devoid of all lies. So there I was, dressed to the nines and looking sharp, sitting in an interview room at Nexus Innovations. Across from me sat a human resources manager with a receding hairline and a beaming smile. He pushed up his glasses, the lenses glinting with a wise and phony light. "Mr. Carter," he began, his voice a smooth, practiced cadence. "Our company places a great deal of emphasis on employee development. The channels for promotion are absolutely transparent." I watched, wide-eyed, as a miniature labyrinth made of frosted glass materialized on the desk in front of him. It was a convoluted maze of twists and turns, complete with dead ends. I forced the corner of my mouth into a twitch of a smile and said nothing. He took another sip of tea and continued his performance. "We champion a happy work environment. We never do overtime, and we guarantee our employees a healthy work-life balance." The words had barely left his mouth when a thermos on his desk morphed with a pop into a medical 4-drip bag, filled to the brim with black coffee. The tube at the end was connected, phantom-like, to his temple. My eyelids started twitching uncontrollably. The overtime here wasn't just a thing. It was probably a blood sport. The HR manager, oblivious to these anomalies, was quite pleased with my focused gaze and decided to drop his final bombshell. "And of course, the salary we offer our new graduates is extremely competitive within the industry. It's very generous. Here it comes." I stared intently at the tabletop. 1 second. 2 seconds. Plink. A crisp, almost mournful sound. A single, lonely quarter appeared out of thin air, spun twice on the polished mahogany conference table, and wobbled to a stop right in the center. The sunlight filtering through the blinds caught it just right, casting a pathetic, ironic gleam. The air froze. The HR manager's smile was cemented to his face. He looked at the quarter, then at me, and a bead of sweat trickled down his temple. That's," he stammered, his entire worldview clearly taking a seismic hit. What was I supposed to say? That the lie he just told was worth less than a bus fare? I took a deep breath and managed to squeeze out an awkward but polite smile. "Oh, must have fallen out of my pocket." As I said it, I reached out, preparing to snatch the coin away with lightning speed. "Don't move." A cold, emotionless female voice cut through the tension from the doorway. The HR manager and I both froze, like 2 chickens caught by the scruffs of our necks, and slowly turned our heads. A woman stood in the doorway. She was dressed in a tailored black suit that accentuated her tall, slender figure. Her long hair was tied back in a neat bun, revealing a smooth forehead and a sharp jawline. Her face was expressionless, but her eyes were like frozen lakes in deep winter, calm, but daring you to look too closely. Just by standing there, she seemed to have dropped the room's temperature by a good 10 degrees. The HR manager shot up from his chair, bending into a 90-degree bow. "MMS. Frost, what brings you here?" "Ms. Frost?" My stomach dropped. "Great, I've run into the final boss." The woman he called Ms. Frost ignored him. Her gaze drifted past the manager and landed squarely on the tiny quarter. Then, her eyes moved slowly upward and met mine. It was a look of scrutiny, of analysis, like a surgeon sizing me up with a scalpel. My scalp tingled. I felt like a rabbit cornered by a predator. "What is this?" she finally asked, her voice just as cold as before. The HR manager's shirt was now soaked through with sweat. His brain went into overdrive, and he managed to produce a lie so astounding he would probably never top it. "Ms. Frost, this is a stress test for our candidates. Mr. Carter here is a performance artist. Yes, a performance artist. We wanted to see his reaction and creativity when faced with an unexpected situation." Listening to his nonsense, I had only one thought. "Buddy, you're so fired." Sure enough, the moment he finished speaking, a bright red, perfectly round object that would let out a little honk if you squeezed it appeared and attached itself precisely to his nose. A clown nose. At that point, even I was struggling to keep a straight face. A dead silence fell over the room, broken only by the HR manager's heavy breathing and the stark visual contrast of his bright red clown nose. I closed my eyes in despair. This job was definitely not happening. I was already starting to think about where to apply next. But the get out I was expecting never came. I peeked open one eye and saw Ms. Frost, Juliana Frost, looking at the HR manager, who now wore a clown nose and an expression of utter defeat. She glanced at me, and then her eyes returned to the quarter. For the first time, a flicker of something new appeared in her gaze. It wasn't anger or ridicule. It was curiosity, like an explorer discovering a new continent. "Performance art?" she repeated, her tone lifting slightly. "Interesting." She raised her hand and pointed at me. "You're hired." "Me, huh?" "The HR manager." "Huh?" Juliana didn't give us any time to react. She turned and left, her words echoing behind her. "Report to the marketing department. I'm curious to see just how much value your art can bring to this company." The sound of her heels clicking on the floor faded away, leaving the HR manager and me staring at each other in the conference room. I looked at the ridiculous red nose on his face, and he looked at the quarter I had unknowingly clenched in my fist, now warm from my grip. "Dude," I said, my voice strained, "you guys have some real characters working here." The manager ripped the nose off and sighed heavily, looking at me as if I were some kind of mythical beast. "You're the character. I'm just a worm." And just like that, I, Leo Carter, thanks to one quarter and a clown nose, successfully joined the renowned Nexus Innovations. My professional career had officially kicked off with a spectacularly bizarre start. On my first day, I became a company celebrity, not because I was exceptionally talented or devastatingly handsome, but because I was that new guy who got hired with a magic trick. I was assigned a marketing team, My desk was by the window, bathed in sunlight. The only problem was the way my colleagues looked at me, which was with the same curiosity one might reserve for a rare zoo animal. My mentor was a girl named Mia Collins. She had her hair in a bun and slightly chubby cheeks, and her personality was as bubbly as her name suggested, like a little sparrow. Leo, you have to tell me what happened in your interview yesterday. They said you made a quarter appear out of thin air and turned Mr. Peterson's nose red," she whispered, her eyes sparkling with pure gossip. How could I possibly explain? All I could do was offer a dry laugh. Just a little sleight of hand to liven things up. "Wow, you're amazing," Mia said, her face full of admiration. "Can you do anything else? Can you make an ice cream appear for me? Strawberry flavored." My powers are on cool down," I said, wiping a bead of sweat from my forehead. Thankfully, our department head, Mark Davison, appeared just in time to save me. Mark was a middle-aged man with a bald spot. He clapped his hands, gathering everyone in the department. "All right, people, listen up. The client for that new real estate project, the Pinnacle at Cedar Ridge, is breathing down our necks. We need to deliver a knockout marketing proposal by this Friday." Mark's voice boomed. "Are we confident?" "Yes," came a few scattered replies from around the office. Mark was clearly not satisfied. He raised his voice. "If we land this project, year-end bonuses are doubled. Any questions?" "No questions." This time, the response was uniform, filled with a raw hunger for money. Mark nodded, satisfied, and began assigning tasks. He spoke with great enthusiasm, painting a picture of a project with a brilliant future and simple objectives. "So for us, this proposal is a walk in the park. Everyone relax. We'll get this done easily by Friday," he declared with a grand wave of his hand, offering his final summary. The instant he said easily, I saw the projector screen behind him, which was displaying the project brief, suddenly change. The background image became a raging inferno, and a line of blood-red text rolled through the flames. "Death countdown. 72 hours. My heart seized in my chest. Easy my ass. This was clearly hell difficulty. After the meeting, everyone was pumped up, ready for battle. I was the only one who felt a chill run down my spine as I stared at the now normal screen. Mia sidled up to me. Leo, what's wrong? You look pale. It's nothing, I said, shaking my head. I just have a feeling this project might not be so simple. Nearby, a female colleague named Felicia Vance, who was wearing designer clothes and perfectly applied makeup, let out a cold laugh. Well, look at our artist. What's wrong? Haven't even started, and you're already getting cold feet? Did you think you could earn a salary here just by running your mouth and doing magic tricks? Felicia was one of the department's top performers and had disliked me from the moment the special hire, showed up. I didn't feel like arguing with her, so I just offered a piece of advice. I just think it would be wise to have a backup plan. Felicia scoffed, rolling her eyes before sashaying away. Mia looked at me with some concern. Leo, don't mind her. But, did you really discover something? What could I say? That I saw the fires of hell? I had to be vague. Just a gut feeling. For the next 2 days, the office was a whirlwind of activity. Everyone was brainstorming around keywords like high-end, luxury, and prestige. I was the only one quietly Googling every piece of negative information I could find about the Pinnacle at Cedar Ridge. I found a lot. The property was in a remote location with almost zero amenities. Its only selling point was that it was built halfway up a mountain with a great view. But recently, news had broken that a large garbage incineration plant was planned for a nearby area. This wasn't the Pinnacle, it was the edge of the abyss. I compiled all this information and tried to talk to Mark, but he was completely lost in his fantasy of a perfect proposal. He waved a dismissive hand. Leo, where did you get this stuff? It's all just baseless rumors. Don't let this negativity affect our creative process. We need to sell the client a dream. The moment he shouted, sell the client a dream, I saw a shimmering rainbow-colored soap bubble emerge from the top of his head with a pop, only to burst a second later. All right then. I gave up trying to reason with the rest of the department and started working on my own plan B. If the high-end luxury angle was a dead end, then maybe it was time to go in the opposite direction. Friday, presentation day. The client's representatives, a group of impeccably dressed executives, sat waiting. To my surprise, Juliana Frost was also in the conference room, seated next to the lead client representative, her face as impassive as a beautiful ice sculpture. Mark cleared his throat and opened his PowerPoint. Distinguished guests, what we at Nexus Innovations have brought you today is a vision for a dream residence. He spoke with passion, and the presentation was, admittedly, beautifully designed. But the expressions on the clients' faces slowly shifted from initial interest to polite smiles. Eventually, some of them started looking down at their phones. I sighed internally, just as I thought. The clients knew their own problems better than anyone. They weren't looking for empty flattery. They were looking for a solution. Mark's presentation ended in an awkward silence. The lead client, a middle-aged man, adjusted his glasses and said politely, Mr. Davison, your proposal is certainly creative, but it doesn't seem to address the core issues with our property. Mark's face turned beet red. The room was dead quiet. In that moment of desperation, Juliana spoke. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried to every corner of the room. We have an alternative proposal. Every head turned in the direction she indicated, straight at me, huddled in the corner. Me? I honestly just wanted the floor to swallow me whole. But under Juliana's non-negotiable stare, I had no choice but to walk up to the front with my flash drive, my legs feeling like lead. My PowerPoint was simple, almost crude. The first slide was just a satellite map of the area around the Pinnacle at Cedar Ridge. I had drawn a giant red circle around the proposed garbage incineration plant. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, taking a deep breath. I know this is the problem that's keeping everyone up at night. The client representatives immediately sat up straighter, their faces showing genuine interest. Mark's expression darkened. He probably thought I was trying to sabotage him. Luxury and prestige are worthless in the face of a toxic environment, I continued. So, the core of my proposal is a single word: honesty. We don't run from the problem. We turn the problem into a selling point. My marketing theme is escape the city, not civilization. Half hustle, half sanctuary. We retarget our primary demographic from wealthy elites seeking luxury to the urban middle class. People who have been grinding away in the city for years, are burned out, and are desperate for a temporary escape to find some inner peace. A garbage incineration plant? No, that's the final embers of the mortal world. Inconvenient transportation? No, that's a sanctuary sealed off from the noise. We aren't selling a house. We're selling a lifestyle, a mental safe haven where you can temporarily shed your armor and pressures. The more I spoke, the more confident I became, laying out the community plans, ad copy, and online campaigns I had prepared. When I finished my last sentence, the room was silent. I swallowed nervously, fully prepared to be thrown out. Suddenly, clap, clap, clap. The applause started. It was the lead client. He stood up, clapping as he walked toward me, his face alight with undisguised admiration. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Young man, this is exactly what I wanted. We don't need more sycophants. We need people who will stand with us and solve the problem. And just like that, we won the project. Amid the shocked, envious, and admiring gazes of my colleagues, I walked out of the conference room like a hero. As I passed Juliana, she stopped me. Leo, Ms. Frost. I halted. She looked at me, and the still water in her eyes seemed to ripple for the first time. You knew Mark's proposal would fail, didn't you? A gut feeling. I had to use my all-purpose excuse again. A gut feeling? She repeated, and the corner of her mouth seemed to curve into an almost imperceptible smile. Your art is indeed very interesting. With that, she turned and walked away. Watching her leave, I didn't feel happy at all. My gut was telling me that my Ice Queen boss was starting to take an interest in me that went beyond a regular employee. And that was not a good sign. The success of the Pinnacle at Cedar Ridge project subtly changed my standing in the company. Mark's opinion of me shifted from this guy's an idiot to this guy's a genius, and he would now always ask me in meetings, Leo, what's your gut feeling on this? Mia became my #1 fan, constantly telling me, Leo, you're amazing, and Leo, you're my hero, while plying me with snacks. Only Felicia's glares grew more intense, like daggers dipped in poison. The peace didn't last long before a new challenge appeared. The company landed a huge account, planning the new product launch for the internationally renowned cosmetics brand, Elysian. The project was a joint effort between marketing team A and team B, and the person in charge was Juliana Frost. This meant I would be spending a great deal of time in close proximity to my Ice Queen boss. My nerves immediately tensed up. At the project kickoff meeting, Juliana was her usual sharp, efficient self. The new product's main selling points are all natural and additive-free. Our core mission is to deeply embed these two concepts in the minds of consumers. She scanned the room. Who has some initial ideas? The director of marketing team B, a slick man with greased back hair, immediately jumped in. Ms. Frost, I believe we should hire a top celebrity for the endorsement. We can leverage their fan base to push the get the celebrity look, angle, and quickly ignite the market. He spoke with great passion, as if he could already see sales skyrocketing. However, I saw the sample bottle of Elysian lotion on the table, its clear liquid visibly turning murky and even bubbling with a few suspicious green spots as he spoke. My stomach sank. There was something wrong with this product. Just then, Felicia spoke up, clearly wanting to impress Juliana. I agree with the director of Team B. Additionally, I suggest we launch a large-scale real user review campaign online. We can invite numerous beauty influencers to promote the product using their authentic experiences to endorse it. She deliberately emphasized the words authentic experiences. The moment she finished, I saw a video flash across her laptop screen of a beauty blogger crying and accusing a certain product of ruining her face. I understood. The so-called authentic experiences were nothing more than paid, fake promotions. Both of these strategies were minefields. In the conference room, the discussion was heating up. I was the only one sitting in silence, my brow furrowed. My unusual quietness did not escape Juliana's notice. Leo, she called my name. Are you using your gut feeling to think again? All eyes in the room turned to me once more. Meeting her gaze, I steeled myself and spoke up. Ms. Frost, I believe that both celebrity endorsements and influencer marketing are just standard plays. For a brand of Elysian's caliber, we need a campaign that is truly legendary, something that will go down in marketing history. Oh, Juliana raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. My idea is to return to basics, I said, standing and walking to the whiteboard. We don't hire celebrities. We don't pay influencers. We host the honest product launch. We'll set up the event venue like a high-tech skin analysis center. We invite 100 ordinary consumers from all walks of life, use the most advanced equipment to test their skin condition on the spot, and then have them use our product. An hour later, we test them again and use the raw, direct data to prove the product's effectiveness. We live stream the entire event. No editing, no censoring comments. We can even invite official notaries and third-party quality inspectors to supervise the whole thing. The moment my plan was out, the room erupted. Is he crazy? The risk is enormous. What if the results aren't obvious? We'd be publicly humiliating ourselves. Exactly. Every consumer's skin is different. How can we guarantee it will work for everyone? The director of Team B scoffed. Leo, you're gambling with the client's reputation. This is pure fantasy. Felicia chimed in. It's a cheap stunt. A major brand like this would never go along with such a childish game. I ignored their objections and kept my eyes on Juliana. I knew she was the only one here who could make the final decision. Juliana steepled her fingers under her chin, quietly listening to the arguments around her. Her expression was unreadable, her eyes deep. No one knew what she was thinking. After a long moment, she looked up at me and asked a question no one expected. What makes you so certain the product can withstand that level of scrutiny? Her question hit the bullseye. I was nervous too. My power could only detect lies. It couldn't see the truth. I only knew that the conventional marketing plans were wrong, but I couldn't be 100% sure the product was as amazing as it needed to be. How should I answer? Tell her I saw the sample turn green? She'd think I was a lunatic. I took a deep breath and decided to take a gamble. A gamble on Juliana's curiosity about my specialness, and a gamble on Elysian's confidence as a major international brand. Because I believe that a brand brave enough to market itself as all-natural must have the integrity and confidence to back it up. I looked her straight in the eye and said, enunciating every word, and because I believe that the truth is far more powerful than the most perfect lie. After I said it, I felt incredibly cool. That was, without a doubt, the most profound thing I had ever said in my life. The room fell silent. Everyone was looking at Juliana, awaiting her verdict. Juliana held my gaze for a full 10 seconds. Then she stood up. We'll go with Leo's plan. She dropped the sentence like a judge's gavel, giving no one a chance to object. Meeting adjourned. The entire marketing department was thrown into chaos by her decision. Everyone thought Ms. Frost had lost her mind to gamble so much on a rookie. Mark found me later, so worried that his bald spot seemed to have grown. Leo, you've really gone too far this time. If this blows up, it won't just be me, even Ms. Frost will be in serious hot water. All I could do was try to reassure him. Fortune favors the bold, Mark. Only Mia remained blindly confident in me. Leo, that was so cool. I know you can do it. I gave a weak smile. I wasn't even sure I believed in myself. For the next few weeks, the office became my home. From venue setup and equipment procurement to recruiting volunteers, I personally oversaw every detail. Juliana also threw herself into the project, using all of her connections to bring in a top-tier team of dermatologists and the most reputable notary public office. We were like two people standing on the edge of a cliff. We would either fly or fall. The day before the launch, Felicia found me. She was holding a stack of files, a smirk of malicious glee on her face. Leo, here's the list of volunteers. I went ahead and screened them for you. I found a few with particularly sensitive skin or a history of allergic reactions. Don't thank me. I just want to make this honest product launch a little more honest. She slapped the files down on my desk and sashayed away. I watched her go, my fingernails digging into my palms. I picked up the list, about to go straight to Juliana, when I noticed a small slip of paper tucked into the last page. It was Felicia's handwriting, but the content stunned me. This is the real list. The one I gave you is fake. Those people are actors I hired. If something goes wrong, they'll claim they were sent by a rival company to cause trouble. I don't know why you're doing this, but Ms. Frost has bet everything on it, and I can't let her lose. I clutched the note, speechless for a long time. I glanced over at Felicia, who was busy talking to a subordinate, her face still wearing its usual mask of sharp-tongued arrogance. So this one. I shook my head and put both lists away. This was a battle we had to win. There was no other option. On the day of the launch, the venue was packed. Top media outlets, key opinion leaders from the fashion industry, and our 100 carefully selected volunteers crowded the space. The air was thick with tension and anticipation. Backstage, Mark was pacing back and forth, muttering, it's over, we're so over. Mia was adjusting my tie, her hands trembling. Leo, I'm a little scared. I patted her hand to calm her down, but my own palms were slick with sweat. I looked over at Juliana, who was leaning against a wall with her eyes closed, as if meditating. She was wearing a white dress today, which softened her corporate sharpness and gave her a cool, gentle aura. Even in this high-stakes moment, she was as serene as a painting. As if sensing my gaze, she opened her eyes and looked at me. Our eyes met. She didn't speak, but she mouthed a single word. Believe. Believe. Believe in what? In me, or in herself. My heart skipped a beat. The launch began. There was no flashy opening, no celebrity on stage. As the project's lead planner, I walked out onto the stage. The spotlight hit me, and I looked out at the sea of faces and flashing cameras and took a deep breath. Today, we're not going to tell stories. We're just going to look at the facts. My opening was simple and direct. Everything proceeded according to plan. The 100 volunteers came on stage one by one and, under the supervision of the notaries and experts, underwent their first skin analysis. Their skin issues, from dryness and oiliness to fine lines and dark spots, were projected onto the big screen, stark and almost brutally honest. Then, the staff removed their makeup and applied the new Elysian face mask. A long, quiet hour passed. Everyone's heart was in their throat. I stood in the wings, the sweat from my palms soaking the note from Felicia. Juliana was standing right next to me. We were so close I could smell the faint, pleasant fragrance she wore. "Scared?" she asked suddenly. "A little," I admitted honestly. "Me too," she said softly. I turned to her in surprise. This was the first time I had ever heard her admit to being scared. Her profile was softened by the stage lights. She wasn't looking at me, but at the volunteers waiting quietly on stage. "I'm betting the company's entire reputation," she said, then paused. "But you're betting yourself." I didn't know how to respond. The minutes ticked by. Finally, the countdown ended. The moment of truth had arrived. The volunteers came back on stage for their second skin analysis. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would leap out of my throat. The data for the first volunteer appeared on the big screen. Hydration, up by 30%. Oiliness, down by 15%, an expert announced loudly. A murmur went through the crowd. The second, the third. Skin elasticity, improved by 10%. Fine lines, visibly reduced by 8%. Melanin deposits, decreased by 12%. One stunning data point after another shocked the audience. The before and after comparison photos on the screen showed results so dramatic they were hard to believe. The venue erupted. Applause, gasps of amazement, and the frantic clicking of cameras merged into a massive wave of sound that threatened to blow the roof off the building. We did it. We had actually really done it. I was shaking with excitement. I instinctively turned to look at Juliana. She was already looking at me, her usually cool, collected eyes now shining like they were filled with stars. She smiled. It wasn't the barely there curve of her lips I was used to, but a genuine, radiant smile that came from the heart. In that moment, the entire world seemed to go quiet, leaving only the sight of her smile, like snow melting in the spring. The launch was an unprecedented success. Elysian's new product became an instant legend, and the Honest product launch became the marketing case study of the year. At the celebration party, everyone was flying high. Mark hugged me, tears streaming down his face. "Leo, you're my savior." Mia, her face flushed red from the drinks, held my hand and kept repeating, "Leo, you're the best." Even Felicia came over with a glass of wine, an uncharacteristic blush on her cheeks. "This time," she said awkwardly, "you were pretty damn impressive." Then she downed her drink in one go, as if completing some important ritual. I smiled and drained my glass as well. Only Juliana remained perfectly composed. She sat quietly, watching her jubilant team with a faint smile on her lips. After the party, people were stumbling all over the place. As one of the few sober ones left, I was tasked with getting our leader home safely. "Ms. Frost, let me walk you home," I offered. She didn't refuse. The night air was cool, clearing some of the lingering effects of the alcohol. We walked side by side on the quiet street, neither of us speaking. "Leo," she said suddenly. "Yeah, who are you really?" She stopped and turned to look at me. The glow of the streetlight caught in her hair, and her eyes seemed especially bright in the darkness. "And don't give me that gut feeling line again. I don't buy it." There was again the question I couldn't keep dodging. I looked at her. The scrutiny in her eyes was gone, replaced by pure curiosity and a hint of insistence, one she probably wasn't even aware of. I was silent for a moment, then decided to tell a lie that was as close to the truth as I could get. "I can see things that other people can't." I watched her nervously after I said it. Would she believe me? Would she think I was crazy? To my surprise, she just watched me for a few seconds, then nodded. "I know." I was stunned. "You know, I've known since your interview," she said. The quarter, the clown nose, the burning background on the pinnacle presentation. I saw them all. My brain short-circuited. She could see them? How is that possible? My power was something only I could. "I don't see the physical objects," she explained softly, as if reading my mind. "But I see a momentary, visual overlap, like a mirage." At first, I thought I was hallucinating from stress, but then I realized it only ever happened when you were around, and it always foreshadowed a lie. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. So I wasn't alone. All this time, there had been someone else sharing my secret in a way I never knew. So she took a step forward, closing the distance between us. Are you going to tell me the truth now? Looking at her face, so close to mine, and seeing the starlight in her eyes, I felt an overwhelming urge to confess. I told her everything about the lie materialization. From the lawn on my dad's head and the bricks falling from my friend's shirt to everything that had happened at the company. She listened quietly, without interrupting, her expression showing no surprise, as if I were telling her the most normal story in the world. When I finished, she was silent for a long time. So, she began slowly. Your power only activates when someone lies. Yeah, and it has to be a lie, right? She nodded, then looked up at me, her eyes holding an extremely complex emotion I had never seen before. Leo, she said, I hate you. I froze. My heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand, the pain so sharp it took my breath away. She hated me? Why? Was it because I had deceived her? Or was it because I was just a freak with a weird ability? A bitter taste rose in my throat, and my vision blurred. Just as I was sinking into a pit of confusion and disappointment, something suddenly appeared in my hand. It wasn't a quarter, or a clown nose, or a burning PowerPoint slide. It was a single, budding red rose. The petals were still dotted with glistening dewdrops, and it gave off a rich, sweet fragrance. It was as real as anything I had ever held. I was paralyzed. I looked at the rose in my hand, then back at her. She was also staring at the rose, her face a mask of undisguised shock and a hint of panic. For the first time, her unshakable, icy composure had cracked. A lie materialized. She said, I hate you. And it was a lie? So the materialized object, why was it a rose? My brain went into overdrive. A ridiculous but daring thought began to form. What if the object that materialized wasn't determined by the lie itself, but by the liar's true inner thoughts? The HR manager said the salary was generous, but in his heart, he was probably thinking this pittance is an insult. So a single quarter appeared. Mark said the project was easy, but subconsciously he knew it was a death march. So a hellscape appeared. And Juliana, she said she hated me, but what she was really thinking was that she wanted to give me a rose. I looked at her face, now faintly flushed with shock and panic, and my heart began to pound uncontrollably. Juliana, I stammered, my voice trembling. She recoiled as if burned, spinning around and showing me her back in a flustered retreat. The wind is really strong tonight, she tossed out, the non sequitur hanging in the air as she practically fled into the darkness. I stood there, clutching the delicate rose, watching her disappear. Then I couldn't help it. I started to laugh. So the Ice Queen could lie after all, and her lies were beautiful. After the rose incident, the atmosphere between Juliana and me became incredibly delicate. She started deliberately avoiding me. In meetings, she would never look in my direction. If we passed in the hallway, she'd stare straight ahead as if I were carrying a contagious disease. But the more she acted like this, the more I enjoyed it. The unbreakable ice mountain could get flustered and shy after all. I started finding ways to provoke her. For example, if I ran into her in the break room, I'd deliberately ask, Ms. Frost, you're looking great today. Did you use a new skincare product? She would stare back stonily and reply, no. Then I would see a little dialogue bubble float over her head with the words, use that Elysian mask you recommended last night. Or, in the elevator, I'd casually bring up a new movie that was out that weekend. I heard that new romance movie is getting great reviews. Too bad I have no one to go with. I'd sigh dramatically. She would stare at her reflection in the polished elevator walls and say flatly, I'm not interested in romance movies. The next second, 2 movie tickets would silently appear in my pocket, printed for the primetime Saturday night showing. I had to fight to keep from laughing out loud at her increasingly unnatural expression. This game of push and pull was more addictive than landing a major project. Everyone in the company noticed that Ms. Frost was acting strangely, but only sweet, oblivious Mia would pull me aside and whisper, Leo, did you do something to make Ms. Frost mad? She seems to be targeting you lately. I just smile and shake my head. No, she's just testing me. And the biggest test was just around the corner. Our company's arch rival, Apex Dynamics, used underhanded tactics to poach several of our key tech personnel and stole a major client we had been pursuing for months. Our stock price plummeted, and a sense of panic spread through the company. The CEO of Apex Dynamics, a man named Victor Thorne, was outrageously arrogant. He publicly declared to the media that Nexus Innovations was a thing of the past, and the future belonged to Apex. I had seen Victor Thorne in business magazines. He was slick, silver-tongued, and known throughout the industry as the king of lies. For me, this was a perfect match. An emergency meeting was called. The atmosphere was grim. All the senior executives looked worried, but Juliana remained calm. Victor is holding a press conference tomorrow to announce their partnership with Global Corp, she said, scanning the room. This is our last chance. We have to expose his lies at that conference and save our company's reputation. How do we expose him? The director of Team B asked, his face etched with worry. We have no proof they used dirty tactics. Everyone fell silent. It was true. Without proof, it was all just talk. Just then, Juliana's gaze fell on me. In that moment, I understood what she was thinking. She didn't have proof, but I did. Or rather, I could create it. I'll go, I said, standing up to meet everyone's stare. My voice was calm. I'll attend his press conference. Everyone looked at me like I was insane. The next day, at the Apex Dynamics press conference, Victor Thorne stood in the spotlight, beaming with success. A long table in front of him was covered with microphones from various media outlets. Today, I am thrilled to announce that Apex Dynamics will be entering into a deep strategic partnership with the renowned Global Corp, he announced, his face glowing with smug satisfaction. The moment he finished speaking, I saw the thick, official-looking contract on the table in front of him spontaneously combust with a whoosh, turning into a pile of ash in seconds. A stir went through the reporters in the audience, but security quickly placated them, blaming it on electrical fault. Victor's expression flickered, but he quickly recovered. Clearing his throat, he continued his performance. We at Apex Dynamics have always adhered to the philosophy of valuing talent above all else. Recently, many outstanding professionals from Nexus Innovations have been drawn by our corporate culture and have chosen to join our family, he said with heartfelt sincerity, as if he were a benevolent saint rescuing souls. Then, something even more spectacular happened. The giant screen at the back of the stage, which was supposed to be playing an Apex promotional video, suddenly switched to the sound wave of an audio recording. A fawning voice filled the room. Mr. Wong, don't you worry. As long as you leave Nexus, we'll triple your salary and throw in a downtown condo. It was unmistakably Victor Thorne's voice. The entire room was in an uproar. Victor's face went white. He roared at the backstage crew. What's going on? Shut off. Shut it off. The crew scrambled, but the recording played on as if it had a mind of its own. I stood in a corner of the venue, watching the pathetic display on stage with a sense of satisfaction. My power, when faced with a master of lies like Victor, was working in overdrive, its effects magnified tenfold. Every lie he told became a boomerang aimed straight back at his own head. Everyone, please be calm. This is slander. It's a despicable revenge tactic by Nexus Innovations. Victor was still trying to fight back, pointing at the crowd and screaming. Apex Dynamics is in excellent financial health. Our product technology is absolutely cutting edge. As he said those two sentences, the ceiling suddenly began to rain down countless red sheets of A4 paper, all stamped with the words overdue and final notice. Simultaneously, the massive screen behind him, meant to represent high-tech, flickered with static and then settled on the game interface for 90s-era Tetris. The scene had devolved into complete chaos. The reporters, like sharks smelling blood, were frantically snapping pictures. Victor Thorne's empire of lies had been utterly demolished in just a few minutes, in the most absurd and theatrical way imaginable. He collapsed onto the stage floor, his face ashen. I looked at the wreckage, then turned to Juliana beside me. She wasn't watching the fiasco on stage. She had been watching me the whole time. Her eyes held a mixture of shock, admiration, and a fiery intensity one had never seen before. Let's go, I said softly. Our work here is done. We turned and left, closing the door on the grand farce behind us. Walking out into the sunlight, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Thank you, Juliana said suddenly. For what? Thank you for saving the company. She paused, then added, and for saving me. I smiled. So, how are you going to repay me? It was meant as a joke, but she stopped walking and looked at me seriously. What do you want? I stroked my chin, pretending to think deeply. Are you guys hiring for CEO? Or maybe the CEO's boyfriend? I expected her to give me a cold look and walk away, or call me ridiculous. But she didn't. She just looked at me for a long, long time. Then she smiled. It was like the first thaw of winter, like the blooming of spring. Okay, she said. I froze. Oh, okay, I stammered. Are you serious? Of course. She lifted her chin, a bit of her Ice Queen authority returning. I never lie. I instinctively opened my hand. It was empty. Nothing had appeared. In that moment, my heart was filled with a vast, indescribable joy. I looked at her, and she looked back at me. The sun was warm. The breeze was gentle. I think maybe I had fallen for this girl who never lies, too. Bonus, scene 3 months later, in Juliana's office. As the newly appointed CEO's boyfriend, I was lounging on a sofa, enjoying some potato chips Mia had given me. Juliana was working on some documents when she suddenly looked up. Leo, I have a question for you. The answer is yes, I said without thinking. She rolled her eyes at me. Be serious. Your power, the things that materialize, they're based on the liar's true inner thoughts, right? Theoretically, yes, I nodded. So what if? She put down her pen, her expression turning curious. What if a person's inner thoughts are the complete, polar opposite of their lie? For example, if they say, I love you, but are thinking, I want to kill him, what would materialize? Her question stumped me. Yeah, what would appear? A knife with a rose tied to it? Or a rose dripping blood? I was about to say I didn't know when Juliana's phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID, her brow furrowing slightly as she put it on speaker. A cold, chillingly familiar voice came through the phone. It was Victor Thorne. He had somehow gotten her private number. Juliana. Victor's voice sounded like it was crawling out of hell. And that punk Leo. You destroyed everything I had. I won't let you get away with this. I curse you to never find happiness. I curse you to a relationship of love and hate, to torment each other for all eternity, he roared viciously. I frowned, about to tell Juliana to hang up. But just then, I saw a flash of light in the middle of the office. Something had appeared out of thin air. It was a tiny pink, Cupid's bow, complete with a little ribbon. Next to the bow lay a single, equally pink, tiny arrow of love. Juliana and I stared at each other, both of us utterly bewildered. On the phone, Victor was still screaming his curses. And in front of us, the adorable little Cupid's bow seemed to sense something. The string quivered, and the pink arrow shot off with a soft whip. It made a graceful arc in the air, and then, precisely, hit me in the butt. The end.